Hey guys, welcome back to Real Talk with Carissa and Jason. Before you listen to this episode, go over to Instagram and please follow us at Carissa and Jason, and then hop straight over to YouTube and subscribe to us at Real Talk with Carissa and Jason. We appreciate your support and we hope you enjoy this episode. Workout. All right, we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Real Talk with Carissa and Jason Sadler.
What up, y'all? What up? How you doing?
Welcome back to the podcast, guys. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode with our first ever guest, Shane.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed having Shane. How's your week been, Jason?
Week's been great. Yeah, right. We, just powering through, trying to figure out how this new normal is going to work right now, and finding my place and powering through. But all in all, life is good. Powering through. We got this. How's your week?
My week's been good. It's been hot, but I don't mind it.
Yeah.
People are complaining. I don't mind it.
How's the wedding plans going?
They're going good.
Yeah. Your voice went really high then.
They're going really, really good.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Like genuinely.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I can't read you right now.
No, they're genuinely going very, very good. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Which is like night and day compared to like 2 weeks ago.
The pain in my voice. I don't know. They're going good. Yeah. It's like anybody else planning a wedding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like what I'm hearing.
You are?
Yeah.
I feel like anybody planning a wedding is a bit stressed.
Well, okay, but I mean, you just answered it like the way you probably should answer it. But 2 weeks ago, I felt like, we were trying to talk you off a ledge. So
I'm just done complaining about it. I'm like, okay. There's about a million things I could complain about, right. But I just feel like I'm just wasting my time complaining at this point.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
I was definitely wasting my time before, but I think I'm just really wasting my time now. So
good.
It's going good.
Well, I'm glad it's going good.
Yeah. So you have the topic of discussion for this week, right?
Yeah, and I don't really know how to unleash this one.
Okay.
But last week when we spoke with Shane, we ended the conversation with something that was put into my heart that I think that we should talk about today, and I really don't know how to talk about it really.
Okay.
But what I want to talk about is how people can uncover their true self and yet still build that relationship with God without changing the person who you are.
Yeah.
I feel that there's a lot of people out there that are open to the idea of building that relationship, but might be scared to because they think that they have to change everything that they do, every way that they think in order to do that. And I just don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, I don't know. I think that's something we can talk about today.
Okay. Well, I had a thought, unless you want to get started.
No, but I don't know how to get started.
Okay,
so.
Well, I think we can get started with maybe just telling our stories and who we are in regards to that. Because when I began my journey with God and stuff, I looked at it probably the same way as you were. It's like, here's a bunch of rules, here's a bunch of regulations that I'm not interested in following because this doesn't seem fun. This seems restricting. If this God is real and if he is good, why does he just care about these rules? And I didn't want to change who I was. I definitely swore a lot, so I was like, I'm not changing that. Everything that I did, I'm just like, I'm not changing that. And honestly, when I first started my relationship with God, I didn't change those things, and I didn't change those things for maybe a year, and I didn't think I had to. And honestly, at that time, I didn't have to, and I'm saying that because everyone's journey looks different, right? And for some people, I think we need to understand there's a difference between who you are and what you do. I feel like those are two very different things. So, like, my action of, like, swearing all the time, right? That was something I did. That wasn't who I was. We associate the stuff that we do with who we are, which I don't think is the case.
Right.
But everyone's journey looks different. So some people overnight, maybe there's things that will change that, or mindsets that might change, stuff like that. But for some people like me, it could be a slow process. Maybe one by one, things are changing, right? And it's like that for a reason, right? For example, sometimes I still swear, and lots of people around me still swear. And if they don't feel like they have to change that, then I don't care. That's your life. But maybe like 2 years like into my journey, it just started to feel weird. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay.
And so then I just stopped.
So you stopped because you just didn't like how it felt anymore, not because you were told that you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Or, okay.
But, you know, if you do look at, like, typical Christians and stuff, they say that, you know, swearing is wrong for this reason or that or whatever. But I didn't pay attention to that because you really can't focus on how other people say you should live your life when you're trying to understand how God says you should live your life.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Because you're trying to figure out, what does God say about me? Who am I really? Not to say that God can't speak through other people, but you're not going to find your answer from other people. Because other people are always going to try to tell you who you are and what you should do. It's in our nature. We try to control people. Me and you are guilty of the same.
Yep.
So yeah, is that a great starting point?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it is actually. And it resonates with me well because I fall into that same category with the swearing, only I haven't stopped.
Yeah. and I don't care if you haven't stopped. This is if God wants you to stop, and if you're meant to stop, you're going to stop.
Yeah. I think for me, I was terrified at the beginning that I was going to have to change everything about me.
Yeah.
Like, I drank, I swore, I partied, I break the law on occasion in terms of speeding. I don't mean like killing people on occasion. Yeah. I live a normal life like anybody else that's out there, right? And growing up, when you're told you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this or that, and you're going to go to hell if you do all of that stuff. It's like, well, why do I want to even get involved in this then, if that's the case? That means I have to change every fiber of my human cell. I
have to change my whole routine.
Yeah, everything.
Everything's about to get shaken up.
And so the thought of that obviously didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it's not appealing.
No. But then when I decided that I wanted to explore what that would be like, still having it in mind that I'm not changing any of this stuff about me.
Yeah.
And then I started to do that. And the more I did it, the more comfortable I was, the more I got out of it, the happier I got. I haven't changed anything about my personality, I haven't changed anything about how I live my life, really, because I was never a bad guy. So I didn't have to stop stealing or stop murdering or stop abusing. I never had to stop doing that stuff. Actually, I take that back. Okay. I wouldn't be lying to you when I say that. I have verbally abused people, many people.
Well, thank you for being honest.
I verbally abused many people in my past.
So, have you stopped doing that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is where I think a lot of things lie with it not being appealing, right? Because everybody has something different in their life. Like for me, like you're saying, I was quote unquote like a good person, right? Like me transitioning from believing in God, from not believing in God to believing in God and following this path didn't require much like uplifting in my life, right? Like I'm not a huge partier. I'm not, out here with all these men. Like it wasn't a hard thing for me. Not much had to change about my life, but there were bad things that I would do. For example, like gossip, right? Can we really say gossip is a good thing? We make it out to be like it's so normal and everybody does it, but really it's a bad thing, right? So since I began this journey, the thing about gossiping is that it's fun. And it really like invigorates you when you're like, they did what? Like,
yeah, that's why they have TV series based on all of this stuff right now.
And it's good stuff, okay? But so gossiping, like, it feels good. The same way verbally abusing someone feels good.
Yes.
Especially when they've done something wrong to you.
And I'm a Scorpio, so just times that by 100.
Okay, so we get you, yes. I'm losing my train of thought, but I know this is important. No, it's okay. When we make this transition and decide, okay, you know, I want to follow God, I want to go on this path, there will be things that change. So, for example, you say that, well, I didn't change the fact that, like, you know, I drink with my friends and, you know, I live this life and whatever. Maybe because that's not what was meant to change. Maybe you verbally abusing people was what was meant to change. Mm-hmm. Me, for example, like I still hang out with all my friends that don't believe in God, because I don't believe it wasn't that was meant to change. It was my attitude, the way that I speak, not gossiping, stuff like that. And I just want to put that out there that, you know, I'm not perfect. Just because I say that, I know I shouldn't gossip. I'm not perfect, neither is Jace perfect. I don't know if you still verbally abuse people, but, you know, if it does come up, we're not perfect, right? Yeah. Just because we follow this path doesn't mean that we're perfect. But maybe this is taking a different direction than you initially intended. But
let's just go with it.
Yeah, I think that things are meant to change. And I think that sometimes we focus on the wrong things. And the biggest lesson I learned, I'm not sure if I can speak to this for like any other religion, but you know the famous story of like the Jewish people were enslaved and like Moses like saved them and they went out to the desert, parted the Red Sea, the whole thing, right?
Yes.
So if you look in that story, God saved the Israelites, took them out of slavery from the Egyptians, and then when they were in the desert, that was when the 10 Commandments was given, right? So all the rules. And there was more than 10 Commandments. There was like a lot of rules, okay? But God first saved them and then gave them the instructions. He didn't give them the instructions and then say, okay, so now follow them and then you can come to me and be saved. He saved them first and then the rules came. So I think sometimes we get so caught up where I've met people like this where they say, you know, I want to follow God, but, you know, my life is just like too messed up. I need to get this in order. I need to stop drinking. I need to stop doing this, blah, blah, blah. And then. It's not an and then. It's you follow God first and then the things will come, because God is the one that transforms our hearts, right? So how could we even change unless our heart becomes transformed? How can we even change unless we feel like something is worth it to make that change, right? With gossiping and how it feels good. Like every other girl out there, it feels good to talk about people you didn't like and how now they're ugly or whatever the case is.
Yep.
It wasn't until I had this relationship with God and felt something change in my heart where I was like, it doesn't feel right to do this. Even though it feels good, this doesn't feel right. And how could my heart possibly have transformed like that without God first coming into my life and me building that relationship?
True. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense, actually. So basically what you're saying is that no matter where somebody is in their life, good, bad, or indifferent, the course of action is not to change that first and then build your relationship. Build your relationship in your ish.
Yeah.
In your stuff.
Yeah.
Build the relationship then. That's when God wants you. That's when he wants to put his arms around you and work on you, and you know, he's not going to change it in you, but he's going to make you want to change it in yourself.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. There's this Bible scripture. I don't think I've quoted any Bible on here yet, so maybe now's the first time where the pastor Carissa can come out and quote the Bible.
Let's go, Pastor. Let's go.
There's this scripture where it says, it's basically explaining God's love for us, right? And it explains how if God has a flock of sheep of 100, that he will leave the 99 of them to go find the one that has like gone astray. And that God rejoices more over that one sinner that repents than the 99 that don't. The 99 religious people that think, oh, I'm fine, right? And I actually read this book. I think it's called A Shepherd's Look at Psalms 23. So Psalms 23 is that famous scripture where it says, the Lord is my shepherd. You heard that?
Yes.
I'm sure even like people that don't think like me and you have heard this thing, or maybe I've seen pictures of Jesus like with a lamb and stuff like that, right? Because the idea is that God is our shepherd. So what does that mean? And basically this book explored, it was an actual shepherd talking about the relationship between his sheep and him and that imagery and stuff. And it was so cool because basically like this one sheep that goes astray is like so stupid. Like you really realize how stupid sheeps are and useless. Like they have to be the most like feeble, useless animals. Like they cannot take care of themselves. Sheeps absolutely cannot take care of themselves. They need a shepherd to constantly guide them. So basically when one sheep like strays from the flock, it's a really bad situation. And what sheep constantly do all the time actually is if they get too relaxed and too fat basically and too lethargic, they actually topple over. And when they topple over, they can't get up because of the shape of their body. So they literally just flail and cry until a shepherd comes and helps them. If the shepherd doesn't come and help them, the sheep dies on its back because it literally can't get up.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so this is the imagery that God paints for us, that this one sheep that goes astray, your 99 sheep are way more valuable because that's 99 sheep. You can make way more money off of 99 sheep than you can of one. But God says, no, I will leave the 99. They can possibly topple over. They could possibly mess up and whatever it might be. But I will leave those 99 valuable sheep to go find the one that has gone astray, to make sure that they're not toppled over on their side, to make sure that they're not going to die. And if you are toppled over on your side, in whatever it is in your life, maybe you've got a drug addiction, maybe your life's a mess, maybe like Shane last week, you're dealing with anxiety and panic, whatever. You are literally helpless. God comes and literally picks you up and puts you back on your feet so you don't die. And I think people have it totally wrong and messed up. People think that it's the good sheep of the bunch,
right?
That, you know, maybe God loves, or it's the good sheep of the bunch that actually can only have the relationship with the shepherd, the sheep that performs the best, the sheep that has the best wool, the sheep that doesn't ever get itself into trouble, the sheep that doesn't get into fights, the one that has it all together. But it's not. It says God will leave that one to go find the one that is toppled over and dying. So I think that's where Christianity specifically gets really messed up, where it's, no, God is actually for the people that that need it, and it's for us too. For example, because at one point we were those sheep that were toppled over, right?
Yeah. And at certain points in our lives, we do end up like that sheep at some points in our life today and going forward. Like, I'll speak for myself anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not even trying to be perfect. That's not a goal of mine.
Yeah.
So I will fall. I will go astray. I will be feeble. I will topple over. I do it all the time. I don't want to use the word I struggle with it, but these are normal things in my life still today.
Yeah.
That I need help with on an everyday basis. That's an interesting analogy, or interesting story, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, I learned it from a book. Like, I can't take credit from it, but it was so interesting seeing like all this imagery that has been put there for us, like in the Bible. Like, it's very meaningful. It's just we don't know it, right? Like, what are we? We live in Ajax and Toronto. What do we know about sheep, right? But and that's really like what it is, and it really bothers me to hear people say that they don't want to have to deal with like the rules and stuff, and they don't want to have to get their life together, or they feel like they need to get their life together. It's like, it's really, really, really the opposite.
Yeah. Now that you're saying it, I actually think that God will use those people for good more than he'll use people that don't have their challenges and trials and tribulations and the stuff that they go through. They'll probably use that one sheep to do more good than the 99 other sheep out there
That are just chilling.
Yeah. Because that one sheep has a lot more experiences and a lot more things that they can relate to, that they can talk to, that they can communicate what it's like to be in that position, to help all the other one sheeps that are out there.
Yeah.
The 99 sheep, they can't relate. They can't help you because they can't relate to it.
Yeah.
That one sheep can do a lot of good, and I actually think that that one sheep would be used for more good. Use all of those challenges and tribulations and obstacles for the greater good at the end of the day. So when people are saying, people go through stuff and they're like, why me? Why am I the one going through it? Well, you're the one going through it, and why you is because you were chosen to.
Yeah.
You were deliberately picked to go through that, so that you hopefully can help other people that are going through it. It's not for you to go through and you just take the burden on until you die, and that's it. That's all. If you have the relationship that you want to have or should have, the goal is to use that why me circumstance and turn it into helping 1, 5, 10, 40 other people within that are going through what you went through already.
Yeah. I even look at it as that one sheep knows the value of the shepherd.
Oy.
Because the 99, they're just living their best life. They're eating their grass and they're having their babies and they're getting their wool sheared. But that one that went away knows what it's like. When I'm toppled over and dying, I literally can't get up because it's really a sad sight to see these sheep. Like, they're actually so helpless. They need someone to pick them up. Now they know the value of that shepherd. Wow, I was actually on such a bad path, or I was actually almost dying, or I was actually being tormented by my own mind, and it was only that shepherd that could actually save me. So now you know the value of what you have at hand. And I think so many people too, when we fall over, we stay silent, but there is a shepherd that you can call out to, because imagine if that sheep, if it falls over and it doesn't make any noise, it's just quiet, you're dead. But if it cries out, like, Matt, like, if it cries out, the shepherd can be like, oh shoot, where's my sheep, and go looking for it and pick it back up.
How does it cry out?
Oh, you want me to make that sound again? You're rude, eh?
Oh man. I think it starts, I saw this documentary the other day, and it was interesting, the message that the documentary was giving and what I got out of the documentary. So they were talking about, things starting, humans at birth starting with a mask. So when you're born, when you're a child, you're born and you put this mask on, and the mask that you have on is generated from, somebody telling you, do this, don't do that. Don't be curious, don't ask questions. And if you take that mask off, you're not worthy of love. You're a bad person.
Yeah.
There's consequences to all of those, so-called negative actions if you take that mask off. And I think maybe that's where this came from, the theory of, or not the theory, what we wanted to talk about today, of people feeling that they have to do things in a certain way and act a certain ways because we're born with these masks, that we have to follow these rules. It has to look a certain way. You have to act a certain way. And the reality of it is that everybody develops their relationship differently.
Yeah.
And everybody has a very different starting point from when that relationship starts, and why it starts. So for there to be a manual of this is the way it needs to be, it doesn't make sense right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because nobody starts the same way. Nobody goes through the same experiences. So I think it's important that we understand, or anybody understand, that it doesn't matter your circumstances. It doesn't matter the type of person that you are, or the type of person that you're not, for that matter, in order for you to start, searching and looking and building that relationship with God. I'll say it. I'm just getting a little tired of being told that this is how I have to worship.
Yeah.
I'm being tired of being told that if I don't do it this way, and if I don't think this way, and if I don't interpret the Bible the same way that that person interprets the Bible, that I'm incorrect. Because if I'm doing it wrong, then God's not telling me I'm doing it wrong, because I'm asking Him every day. I'm looking to be led. I'm looking to be shown the way, if you will.
Well, I was going to say, I think in those moments, it's important to check ourselves. If you're concerned about being right in the sense where you don't want to be doing the wrong thing, or you're concerned about being right because you want the other person to be wrong. I think that's important. And I think if you want to be right just for the fact of I'm right and you're wrong, then that's like a whole other different story,
sure.
right?
That's ego.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But in terms of what is the right way of, even what Shane was saying last week, what's the right thing that you have Catholic churches and Pentecostal and Baptist and non-denominational and whatever, the whole thing. Which one's right? Which one's wrong? You have 25 different versions of the Bible. What's right and what's wrong? And I think I said this to Shane last week, where if you get caught up in that, you're just screwing yourself over, because you're focusing on opinions, right? And as soon as we focus on somebody else's opinion, it's just downhill from there. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Yes
and no. But my reasoning for saying no is because I don't know enough about the other churches or religions out there.
Yeah. No. I think it's fair. Like, when people disagree, to get into a debate and investigate and learn. I'm not saying that. I just think in terms of, I'm just viewing it how I would view it, and I would take it as I would care more so about their opinion versus the actual truth. And I think it's important. Okay, at the end of the day, regardless of what people are saying, maybe you are wrong. Maybe there is a new truth that needs to be revealed. But it's important to, at the end of the day, to be concerned about truth and not
I understand
opinions.
What you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean by it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And I'll be lying to you if I said that in my everyday life, when I'm having conversations, I'd be lying if I said I don't want to be right. Okay?
Yeah.
But when it comes to my faith and when it comes to my relationship, I am very okay with being wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't want to... I want to know I'm being told I'm wrong by the right messenger.
Okay. Can we pick and choose like that? Do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question, because anybody could argue that people who are telling me I'm doing it wrong, maybe that's the message. Yeah. Maybe that's where it's supposed to be coming from. But if that's the case, I hate to say this. I really hate to say this. But if that's the case, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's fair, but you have to, I look at it as, me and you were talking about, like, a husband and wife, and how, like, you know, you don't really, like, listen to each other, and how, you could tell your wife, or, like, I could tell my husband, like, a million times, like, hey, this is like this is like that, and they won't listen to you, but then as soon as somebody else tells them, they listen.
You're right,
you know?
right.
It's the exact same thing. It's the same message, but for some reason, filtered through a specific messenger, you don't listen because of your bias, right?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Okay, maybe where I get hung up is when I want to know something and I have a conversation with God about it. He's giving me the answer, I feel, in a bunch of other ways where I'm getting the answer. And then when I get the counter to that, whatever the counter is, it's not about a biased opinion for me. It's that I just don't believe the words that are coming out of their mouth. So let's just say, okay, here's a simple way to put it.
Wait.
It embarrasses me to say it, but it is what it is.
So right, this is real talk with Carissa and Jason.
So if some of the words that are being said, they'll say, this is in the Bible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it might be in the Bible, but it doesn't mean that I believe it.
Okay.
That's really what it comes down to.
That's a real thought. I appreciate you saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are things that are in the Bible that I don't believe.
Yeah.
I believe that some stuff was put in there that shouldn't be in there. I believe that there's some stuff that should be in there that is not in there.
Okay.
And, you know, we're not going to get into why, but that's just what I think. And so when I'm getting confirmation on things that I'm asking, and the confirmation can go either way. It can go, yes, you're on the right path, or no, you're not on the right path. The confirmation is confirmation. But then I get then I get the counter to that later on from somebody. That's where I shut down.
Okay, so I have a thought.
Yeah.
Do you think this maybe could relate to our topic of conversation that we're trying to talk about, which is if it's requiring you to change something you don't want to change, is that when you decide that you don't believe it? Great
question. No, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you that I'm quick to change it immediately. No.
Yeah.
But I like to give myself a little credit to say that I can push it away at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then sit back by myself, be with me and God, and then work on that, and then come to a different understanding. A perfect example is, you know how I felt about being baptized.
Yeah.
You knew how I felt about reading the Bible. Would you say that I was open to both of them?
Absolutely not. Not open at all. No, just kidding. He was open, but open with like, okay, like I'll do that.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's not true.
Okay.
What I felt about baptism was that I felt like I didn't need to be baptized because my relationship and my faith was strong. So I didn't need to be baptized. That was my opinion.
Okay, so that's kind of like how I'm explaining it. It's like, kind of thing.
But when it was explained, so I asked.
Yeah.
So we had the conversation. Yeah. I went back. I prayed on it. I had a conversation with him about it. And he revealed to me in his million different ways that, this is something I needed to do.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
So there's a perfect example of me believing something and I was wrong.
Yeah.
At least I think I was wrong.
Yeah.
And so because I believe I was wrong, I changed it.
Yeah, and you were okay with it.
And I had no problem doing it.
Yeah.
But there are just some things, and don't ask me what off specifically because I don't have one for you right now, but there are just some things that the way that they say you're supposed to worship and what you're supposed to do and say, I just don't believe it. Yeah. I just don't. And this is after I've asked for confirmation, and the confirmation from God is, you're okay. You're okay. Whether that means you're okay for now because you're not ready to receive it, or
Yeah.
whether that means you're okay because there's nothing wrong with what you're doing.
Yeah.
I take it for what it is, and then you know,
I think it opens up a good conversation though about how there are obviously like some truths like where people like can correct you, right? Like for example, you're saying the baptism thing, like you understood you were wrong, and you're like, okay, like let me fix this, right?
Yeah.
But then there are some people and some instances where people will take advantage of the Bible and will use it to push a certain message that they want to get across, right? And will manipulate what it is, right? Which is not good. 0 out of 10, do not recommend that. So I get what you mean, because for example, saying a particular way that you have to worship, some people it looks different, right? Some people it's just sitting and closing your eyes, and some people it's shouting and dancing, right? Exactly, you said you don't really have a specific example, but if you can think of one, that would be really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are certain people that are very strict in their rules, and I think that is what has turned off a lot of people. And you know, if they want to be very strict with their rules, I'm not hating on that at all. Like, but I think this particular generation, we saw a generation before us that approached religion in a very rule-based way, in a very performative-based way, and always specifically talked about like hell and judgment, right? So now with our generation, when we hear those like trigger words, like judgment and hell and all these particular rules, we are like literally triggered and we get pissed off because we didn't like the way the generation before did it. So now there's good things about what's gone on with this generation, right? Definitely more inclusive, more loving. But because of the bitterness we have to the older generation and the way that they approach religion, there are certain things that like we won't explore or we don't want to talk about, and we get pissed off, right? But again, there is something to say about the older generation where this is a bit of a blanket statement, but they may not understand that there are different ways to do things. They may be stuck in their rituals. They may be stuck in their tradition. And if you're listening and you have a person like that in your life, I would highly suggest taking what they say with a grain of salt. This could be very different depending on your circumstance, because everyone's relationship with God looks different, and people need to understand that and respect that. And I think as long as the truths are there, for example, if you came to me and you said, well, I believe that that God is actually my wife and whatever, something crazy, right, I would say, okay, well, you know what? This isn't the situation. Well, everybody just approaches God differently, you know?
Yeah.
But everyone's journey looks different, right? And as long as the truth remains in everyone, then we have to respect that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a bit of a ramble. I don't know if it made sense.
No, it made sense. That made sense. This is one of those topics that is like, it can go in like 65 different directions. And, okay. So you asked me to give you an example of something.
Yeah.
This might not be a good example, but it's an example. So I remember listening to somebody, and as they were preaching, they started talking about how evil it was. And I didn't even know this was a thing, by the way.
Okay.
Like, I just didn't know. So it threw me completely off guard to the point where I went to go look it up.
Yeah.
So in the preaching, it came up about how, what was it? Being uncircumcised was like a sin.
Oh.
And like was a thing. And that it was in the Bible. And I'm like, you see, like, so immediately when I heard that,
you're like, something's wrong.
Like, I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
Like, why would that even be a thing to be in the Bible? I don't even understand that. So when you hear stuff like that,
So did you go and look that one up?
I didn't find it. I know apparently it's there, but I didn't find it.
Yeah, it's like that's wrong.
What's wrong?
That's wrong. Like being uncircumcised is not evil. There's actually like multiple scriptures about it where it talks about how, because basically the Jewish tradition was they were circumcised, right?
Okay.
So then when Jesus came and made this promise of eternal life to all people, not just the Jewish people, the Jews were confused. Like, okay, well, in order for us to live our life as Jews, we have to get circumcised. Like, that's like our law. So do these people have to get circumcised? And then the people that weren't Jews were like, yeah, do we have to get circumcised? So I think some of them did, but there's actually scriptures on where they talk about it, where it's like, no, like you're fine. So
okay. See?
It's really interesting.
All right,
yeah.
So there you go. Because so that's the battle that I have internally with myself, is that, you know, when I going back to when I'm saying I'm getting confirmation from God on something, and then I'm hearing on the other side that no.
Yeah.
But then from that same other side, I'm hearing that not being circumcised is a sin. Like, what do I do with that?
Yeah, this is why it's so important to have that personal relationship and know yourself, because the more people you try to listen to and get information from, the more dangerous it is.
Exactly.
Because if you didn't know that yourself, if you didn't have the resources to see that yourself, is that true? You would take that guy's words for face value, and you'd be like, okay, so I gotta get circumcised. Like, what? You could be going to the hospital right now getting circumcised, or just getting pissed. I don't know. But yeah, it's crazy. I think there's a difference between personal conviction and what is maybe like the straight out rules God wants you to do. For example, like don't lie, don't cheat, whatever, stuff like that. Then there's personal convictions. For example, like there's nowhere in the Bible where it says don't do drugs, right?
Yes.
Right.
I'm just joking.
But you know, where people will pull from are verses about how, like, you know, does that honor God by, you know, possibly destroying your body, right, or possibly distracting your mind, right? Does that honor God? So it's like,
some might argue that it brings them closer to God.
I mean, I've heard that. I don't really know what to say to that. Yeah, we can move on from that.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah. You're saying you don't know what to say because you've never done it, so you don't know.
Yeah, I've never done like psychedelics or like anything like that.
Well, I'm not even talking about like the hardcore stuff. I'm just talking about like smoking a joint or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can move on from there.
Yeah, but I lost my train of thought. But anyways, you look like you had something to say.
Okay, so here's another thing. And I'm just going to bring it up as an example, but we're going to move on from it.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about it another day.
Okay.
Okay? But another example is, you know, the whole homosexuality thing in the Bible, right? I don't know that I believe it the way that it is being explained from Christians. You know, we're not getting into it now.
Okay.
But I just feel that God is all about loving everybody. We just finished talking about how Jesus loves the one sheep, like, you know, and wants to bring the one sheep closer, so on and so forth. But the way that it is in the Bible, or the way that Christians talk about it, is that if you're a homosexual, you're going to hell. Period. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I have no self-interest in wanting to believe it or not believe it. I just don't believe that, because I don't see Jesus and God like that. I just don't see it. And so that what that means is that if you are not heterosexual, that you cannot have a relationship with God.
Yeah, that's false.
Right. Okay, so we're going to move on from that.
Yeah, okay.
But that's another example now of I think there's things in there that I question, and I don't believe it.
Yeah. I think this stuff like this is what really holds people back from God. The very controversial topics, right? Like, okay, so do Christians believe that gay people are going to hell? If I have an abortion, am I going to hell? Like, all these different controversial topics. And I get it. Because that's what held me back in the first place, too. I was just like, how could a loving God, how could someone that is supposed to be loving, how could a religion supposed to be loving, have all of this going on? It didn't add up for me. And I think when I stopped listening to people and investigated for myself, that was when everything changed for me. And that was when I stopped being held back. I'm like, oh, this isn't what it's painted out to be. Yeah. And it's definitely people that ruin a lot of things, because all over the world, not just with Christianity, people will use their religion to fuel hate that they have. Yes. And to fuel an agenda that they might have. So it's not just set aside for Christians. It's all religions. They will use, and people that aren't even religious, people will use their belief system to push whatever hate is in their heart that they want to push. So yeah.
Okay. But you see how there's, I believe that there's going to be more people out there that battle with what we're talking about right now than actually are on the same, I don't want to say the same side or the same fence, but there's going to be more of those people than not.
And you know what? I literally feel the irritation in me right now, because I feel like how I used to feel. Because I don't know, maybe there's somebody that's listening that feels this. I feel how I used to feel like before I knew God, where when someone would talk about God and these issues, I would have a physical reaction. I would get irritated. I would be like, how could you possibly believe in this? How could you possibly agree with that? And whoever you are, if you are listening, I just want to say, just please, I just beg you, do the same thing I did. Because it's really, really not what it has been painted out to be.
What did you do? You said do what you did.
Which was just stop looking at the world, stop looking at the issues just for a second, and if you really think that this is false and this is bad, check it out and try to prove it, and try to actually see. Because what I was doing was, I was like, I don't agree with this, I don't believe in this, I don't, but I never actually checked it out for myself. How could I say I don't believe in something if I never actually looked into it myself to form my own opinion? My opinions were based off of everything I saw in the world and my feelings. My opinions were based on my feelings. But I didn't actually go and investigate myself. Because if you go and investigate these things yourself, you will see that what you see in the world, and I think that it goes, like I said, for many other religions, you will see the bad and the ugly before you see the good, which is very sad. It's a very sad truth.
How did you investigate it?
I went on my own path. I bought a Bible. I'm like, all right, if this is it, if you're saying this and this, this was through my fiance TK. He had these strong beliefs, and I would literally get mad at him. I'd be like, can you shut up and stop talking to me? I would say those words. And then I was like, okay, well, if he believes these things, maybe there's some validity, so let me check it out. So I bought a Bible. I was like, and he's like, well, you should try praying. I'm like, all right, what do I have to lose? I'll try. And here I am.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to, if you are looking for ways to improve your life, live a little happier or a lot happier, and what you're doing is not working, try something new.
Yeah, exactly. Try something new. And for me, it was also, I wanted to know truth. I'm like, what is the truth? What is all of this? I had all these deep thoughts about life, and I'm like, what's the deal here? I wanted to know. So I looked. I stopped. Go look for yourself. If you want to try to seek some kind of truth, if you want to understand more, or if you want to see, does it really say this? Does it really say that? Literally, pick up a Bible. You're not going to die. Just pick it up and see. see for yourself, because so often we will just listen to other people. We live in a time where we're saying, you know, always fact check, always fact check, always fact check. But then when it comes to spirituality, nobody does their fact checking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we should exay the notion that when you become a Christian, or when your faith in God is where you want it to be, well, it's never going to be where you want it to be, because you're constantly growing.
Yeah.
But when you get to that point, it's not about living a perfect life. It's not about being a perfect role model, citizen, doing everything the right way. You're still going to have your flaws. You're still going to have your challenges. You're still going to make mistakes. Like, that's part of life. That never changes. But what does change is when you do find yourself in those positions, that you have somebody to talk to,
yeah,
who will forgive you and help you move on from it. And I think that's where the focus needs to be, and not on being perfect.
Yeah.
Being what you think that people think you should be. The very people that are judging you, and the very people who have criticism to say that you're not doing this and you're doing that, Christian or no Christian, religious person or no religious person, 9.5 out of 10 times, they are way worse off than you.
Yeah.
Those very same people. So, you know, as you're saying, Carissa, don't check it out for yourself. Don't
check it out for yourself.
Don't follow the haters.
Yeah, man. There's haters with everything you're gonna do. You really have to have blinders on, and just look for yourself.
And for anybody who's trying to understand, you know, what the goal is in faith, the only goal in faith is just to continuously grow. You know, I heard this and I loved it, where I heard somebody say, goals are for like financial, health reasons. Goals are things that you want to achieve, and then once you achieve it, it ends there. That's what a goal is. A goal in faith, there is no such thing. You're never going to get to the goal in faith. What's important is that, you're able to stand in a position where you start and take 10 steps forward. And within those 10 steps, you've grown in your faith and as a human being.
Yeah.
And then you're able to look back and see where you started. And that's good. More importantly now, that when you get to those 10 steps, you have another 10 steps to go to get that much better.
Yeah.
And then when you get to that 10 steps ahead of you again, you're able to look back and see where you were 10 steps ago. And then you're going to look to another 10 steps ahead of you. So you're never going to reach a goal.
Yeah.
The goal is not to reach a goal. The goal is to just to continuously improve. Yeah. And more importantly, celebrate and congratulate yourself from where you came back those 10, 20, 30, 40 steps ago.
Yeah.
That's the importance. To me, that's what I think is the basis of growing in your faith.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I maybe just to sum it up, what I always say is like, I want to look back and be disgusted with myself. I want to constantly look back and go, ugh. On our 100th episode, I want to go back to the 3rd or the 7th and be like, ew, I said that, I talked like that, I couldn't formulate my sentence like that, that was what I blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I want to look back like that, because then that means the position you are in, that you've grown, that you've changed.
Yes.
I constantly want to do that. And if I almost want it to be weekly. I want to look back at the week before and be like, yikes,
Yes.
Because then that means that you've grown.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think this has been, 50-something minutes?
Is it really?
Yeah. Check your phone.
I don't even understand how. Okay,
All right, well, guys. Clearly, we have a good time over here at the studio, Jason's basement. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode. Definitely maybe a controversial one with lots of hot takes. But we appreciate you guys, and we want to hear your feedback. So please leave a comment and let us know what you think. We want to continue the discussion.
Peace.
Peace out. Guys, thank you for listening to another episode of Real Talk with Carissa and Jason. Listen, if you know someone that can benefit from this episode, we are asking you to please send it over to them. We would love for them to hear it. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Carissa and Jason, and over on YouTube at Real Talk with Carissa and Jason.